So I complain a lot about my housemates and what I believe to be their executive dysfunction is what I've narrowed it down to, at least, where I'm constantly finding half-done tasks by them, which would be fine if that didn't mean that I had to deal with them so that I could then do whatever it was that I was going to do first. Because then it crosses the line into becoming inconsideration, which is bad regardless of the excuse. And please don't think that I'm on a self diagnosis binge right now. I've thought that they've had undiagnosed ADHD for years now, and we're never going to find out officially because they're not going to go get tested. It's just if they don't have ADHD, they stop making sense as a person. So that's the framework that we're going to be working with here. I've been trying to be more cognizant of what having ADHD looks like for some people and be more forgiving of the ways that that can manifest. And there are some things that I just, I can't wrap my head around. Focusing in on the executive dysfunction, because that's the biggest way that they seem to struggle, whether it's part of ADHD or not. I learned that executive dysfunction breaks down into different categories of what someone might struggle with, from initiating tasks, managing impulses, emotional control, changing tasks, having a working memory, planning, organizing things, and monitoring themselves. And it feels like the things they've done of late should fall into one of these very broad categories, but I don't know. I keep having to throw out slash recycle empty plastic bags. Now, there is a hoarder thing going on in this house, but it's not quite that. They're not saving the Ziploc bag for later because there's spots for that, and that does happen sometimes, especially with also tinfoil and takeout containers, etc. Like, they do that. They do have a place for those. They do get saved. Too much so. But what's actually happening is they're emptying the plastic bag of what was in it and then putting it back where they got it. So, like a bread bag. They used all of the bread, but put the empty bag back in the bread basket. In the fridge, we pulled out the meat drawer and found two empty bags that had been used to, or had meat in them, I guess. And the thing that I can't figure out is that these are not disrupted or half done tasks. They have the item that they actually want, like the food is in their hands. And rather than take it and the bag to a secondary location where they're preparing the meal, and where I'd expect to find a bunch of forgotten plastic baggies, they're making the active choice to put a useless empty bag back where they got it from. And that just feels out of pattern to what I expect to see with executive dysfunction. It's not forgetting an empty bag, it's choosing to store an empty bag. In this specific situation, the place that recycling goes is literally within the same arm's reach of putting it in the wrong spot or putting it in the right spot. It's not like it becomes another task of needing to walk or go to another room to dispose of it. There's other things that I don't get to, obviously. Like the other week, they were going to store a cooler in the basement, but carried it to the top of the stairs instead, and then propped it up against the door of someone else's room. Of course, they left it there all day, forgotten about it, and when the other person came home, they had to move the cooler to use the door, which raises questions of 1, why, having already picked up the cooler with the sole task of putting it away, did that abruptly end when the spot to put it is literally within sightline of the random place that they deposited it instead? And 2, why put it against the door in the way so someone else would have to move it, then prop it against the wall instead? Which is what the other person ended up doing, because it wasn't their job to put away a cooler that they never intended to put away, but it is now in their way of functioning. These things could be chalked up to some kind of inability to shift tasks, but it's also not task shifting. In my mind, they're already doing the task. The thing is in their hands and they're dealing with it. They just choose to postpone finishing the task at the finish line, which makes any task more than it really is, for no reason. Unless, of course, you're considering the fact that it's other people who end up finishing it instead constantly. I read a post about executive dysfunction and ADHD and someone describing seeing something that they mean to throw out every day, but then never getting around to it and having a breakdown over it. And I really sympathize with that reality that many people face. I do. It just doesn't seem like the same thing here exactly, where executive dysfunction would mess with any ability to start, intentionally shift, or finish larger tasks that require planning or organization. It's the fact that single step tasks are getting cut off mid action for no apparent reason other than to not complete it. Like they're standing there with something in their hand and a right bin in front of them and deciding to set it on a wrong shelf right next to that instead. Like I said, the executive dysfunction in ADHD is speculation on my part, and I'm starting to worry that it's something else, something more, because I can't make the patterning make sense. But I'm also not a doctor, duh. So if you have anything like this or know someone like this, I would appreciate any insight that you or they have about this kind of behavior, or whether this sounds like something else, like some other diagnosis, because there is the worry eventually of dementia, and whether we should keep a lookout for signs of that. But that's just even so much more that I cannot handle.